Time now once again to check in with the Shelton School District Superintendent Jessee. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeff.
We are moving into November. I know that at least with the high school, there's some midterm things happening now. So kind of maybe a good opportunity for a midterm update on what you're seeing across the district.
Oh, we are full swing into this school year. Lots going on. So many stories. Big thing right now that I got taking place inside classrooms is just making sure kids are taking books home and are getting them read. They got to be reading pretty much 10 minutes for every grade level they're in. Obviously, that taps out at the older grades. I'm not expecting, seniors to read 120 minutes, but, we definitely want kids when they're in the secondary level trying to get 45 minutes of reading in per night, and that can vary for assignments or the books they chose.
How do you get a student to look for a book that might be one level harder, let's say? So let's just go with a fourth grader or something like that. And they've been reading books last year. They were third graders. They've been reading books, and they had whatever it was, Dog Man, let's say. Now they're in fourth grade, and the teacher's like, well, let's bump it up a notch. But the kids are still kind of wanting to go back to what they're familiar with.
Well, Jeff, I was at Mountain View this morning, and this is exactly the conversation we were having.
Was it? Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, must have been trailing along here. So, no, they have a new principal there, Principal Ness. She comes to us from Tacoma, and, she also used to be in Central Kids App. So we were talking exactly like I'm like, hey, here's the kids. What's the data say? What's their, to this point, what's their, we call it independence level, and then what's their instructional level? And that's usually exactly the case of like, here's my level, and then you go up for the instructional level. And sometimes that stretches kids. We want them really independently reading their independent level. And a lot of kids, well, not every kid, but some kids do pick books that are sometimes too difficult for them and sometimes too easy.
Right.
So this challenge can go both ways, Jeff. And so we're just really coaching in of like, how do you manage that? So you get kids to have, if they're at the lower levels, irregardless of their age, right? Like, so doesn't matter. We want to make sure that they have, if they're at lower level, they have to have like a lot of books in their book bag. They're going to go through a lot of books. As they get older, then they definitely should have at least 2 books. Every kid at the older levels, higher level reading, you want them to have at least 2 books because, when you're not in one book, you can grab the other. And we do sometimes assign books that are a stretch for some students in those particular situations because they can read it, but they may have a hard time comprehending it. And
Sure.
Remember, reading really is comprehension.
And two, now, how do you encourage, or what are the thoughts on the types of books as you're moving towards chapter books? What are the types of books that you encourage or discourage? I'm thinking about this as Halloween is next week, right? So if a kid shows some proclivity to a scary Stephen King book, for example,
Sure.
do you encourage that book, or do you say that might be a little too scary? Or to me, that might be a sell on a kid. If you say it's too scary, they go, "Well, I want to find out." I don't know how that works with comprehension and.
Well, we're driving on, right? You're driving on interest and at their reading level. So I want to get a book in front of them that they're interested in reading. And so I was out at Mountain View this morning. And guess what? There was a lot of books that were about pumpkins or scary themes. But the unit that we're in right now, we're teaching some nonfiction units specifically about animals. And so there's a lot of kids, with those books in hand too. So that's what I was trying to say earlier. They got these book baggies, but they're going to have a lot of books in them sometimes, right? And we're having to talk about elementary, so there's going to be more books than there would be at older grades. But so they got those books, Jeff, and so then they can read their nonfiction unit, but then they can also have a scary book in there so that they can go home and read that as well.
Yeah.
So we you don't have to just get stuck on one thing, but because your teacher in your class is talking about this work all day long, you're going to be wanting to read in it so it can engage open conversation, and also a lot of those same genres. So let's say the theme was something about like realistic fiction, but with scary theme, with the scary theme to it. Then you could talk about all of the literary elements that support those kind of books, right? Suspense, or using a lot of very figurative language or scenery to draw in darkness, or character development that you're like, oh yeah, like that's super scary. Did you hear how they describe that person? Whatever, a monster. So I don't know. Those are the things that just get people excited, the kids excited, right? And so they can have a shared experience, and the teacher again can teach on those elements of that genre while maintaining choice for students, because we, just like adults, they have a preference on what they like to read. And I just got to finish with one thing. If anybody's listening about what they're seeing, look at what their books are reading. If they're reading primarily one kind of genre, push them into other areas of reading. It is one of our ongoing challenges, for sure.
I have that struggle here with my son as we're kind of getting him to read different books, or he says, I read in ELA, so I shouldn't read at home. I go, well, that's not how that works. We need to read here, and so I kind of pepper him with these books here. I go, well, when I was a kid, I used to read this type of series, or anything that interests you, we can find a book that helps engage that. So I gave him a Halloween, Ghost Stories of Washington, small little snippets of stories from around the state, right? And I go, well, just try reading one or two of these. And so he read them and he liked them. And then he said, do you want me to read you one? And I said, man, I might have picked up on a good genre here. Yes, please. Because not only him reading silent SSR style, but out loud, and then us reading to him too. All of that helps. Is that right?
That is correct. You're falling into amazing teaching and parenting skills all in one right there, Jeff. And I know many of the listeners are also like interested in doing that too. So like start with this thing. What do you like? What's your interest? Getting the book in front of them, reading to your kid, especially again younger readers. But as you get older, you could share a book, Jeff. Right? You could go, oh, let's share a book. Let's get 2 copies of this book, and then let's you and I have a conversation about it.
Oh, like a book club.
Yep, like a little mini book club. Why not? And it doesn't have to be super deep either. You'd be like, hey, where are you at? What chapter are you on? Like, or what do you think? What do you think's going to happen coming up in this story? Or I don't know. I hate the supporting character. Yeah, Leslie. Oh, Leslie's annoying. Yeah, I know. I got a Leslie in my class. I got a Leslie at my work, like it just, you're making text to self connections. You're making connections to each other through the book, tying your kid in. That's great. You can get the audiobook for some of those parents out there that want to do it, or if it's going to help your reader get into more books and get interested in it. And then my last move is just create it, hey, older kids read more advanced books. Look how thick. Ooh, look at that. Sometimes you just kind of like, you want to get their eyeballs to go a little bit bigger and feel a little bit older. So again, especially as kids get older, they want to feel like they're more mature and part of that more quote unquote, older teenage or adult kind of level.
Yeah.
Look at what I'm reading or what I'm able to read. And like, well, okay, first steps first. But anyway, those are just some of the tricks, and you helped identify a couple of them.
That's a good one. Those are, I don't think I had ever really thought about a book club style thing for the house here. Maybe we'll all go to the local bookstore and have him pick out a book. We'll get 3 of them and read. Everybody reads together.
Plus your local librarian, whether that's in the school district or obviously out there Timberland, libraries, they'll have it, right? And so they'll have somebody that knows a lot about books and how to help get your interest for your kid.
Sure. Well, I mean, all the reading stuff you've been doing, again, some of the achievements that we've been going over a lot here, the 3rd grade reading scores are up a bunch here, about 13-14% over the last 2 years. #1 in the state for growth and early literacy. and 100 more kids reading and writing compared to the state average from that as well. So
100 kids right here in Shelton.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Good.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, the weather's turned, so now it's time for soup and books. And I think it's a great opportunity to make those connections and really bring everybody in the family to kind of understand the reading together. Because, adults, they read, but it's different. They're scrolling on their phones, and comprehension on a phone screen is nil. Nobody remembers, what they just read compared to a book that you read months ago. Even if it's on a Kindle, it's not the same. You look into that stuff too? You guys talk about that when you're...
Always. We talk about it all the time. A lot of research has been coming out for the last couple of years on that, and you're just saying all the right things. Yeah, like reading a phone or an article, whatever, is not the same as reading a book. And so there's nothing wrong with some articles. The old newspaper, all that, that's great. Print, that's fine. Cookbook, hey, if that's going to get it going, great. But it's just, again, don't get stuck on one genre or one format. Try to find others to reach that. And, when you get into books, and there's just so many just vast types of authors and storylines, and getting lost in a book is where you build a lot of those cognitive powers that you got going on in your head of all these different steps, because you just get lost in this whole storyline that you've been reading for, let's say, a week or two. Those start to formulate and make connections to the things that you've read for other places or experiences that you've had. So that's what that research is going to say, because like you said, people just forget the article they just read on, or whatever, something that came obviously from TikTok or whatever, and not even have to read.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
That's just not nearly as helpful for student learning.
Huh, that's awesome. All right. Well, let's leave it with that. That was a good conversation today on books and how we kind of help me figure out some stuff for my kids. So I appreciate that. You have a good one, and we'll check back in next week.
Thanks a ton.